welcome back to another episode of Seinu Gardens. Today I got these honeysuckle vines. I got 5 of them here. You can really see the pots, but I've had these for several years and I've been gradually working on them, and in this episode I'm actually going to prune these back. They all have really good movement in the trunk line, so I'm going to get to work on this, sit some of these down so I can get to just one at a time on this. Start with this one. Get a close up. As you can see, it's got, maybe not. Let me pull out this pine straw. But as you can see, beautiful movement in this trunk. Beautiful, beautiful movement. And all of these honeysuckle vines have beautiful movement. I'm just going to prune this one a little bit. There's a little sucker down here that I'm going to... Actually, you know what? I'm going to... Well, then again, I already have one right here. I'm going to prune this one off because it looks like it's dead, because it should be growing. Yeah, I think it's dead. I got another sucker down here I can just pull off. Got a twin trunk right here. Got some nice movement. So I got these 2 branches side by side. This one's not very healthy, so I'm going to prune it off. However, it does have a few buds at the base that I'll prune back too. And as you can see, I got multiple branches coming off at the same place. So, and they're all pretty much essential to the design. However, I got a bud right here, so this one definitely won't come off. Will come off. Plus, it's on the inside of the curve. Now that's between these 2. This one could work, and this one could work. I'm actually going to prune this one so I can get some buds right there. And that pretty much concludes the pruning on this, except for pruning the tip back a little bit. This one isn't as strong as the others because it's been in a smaller pot. Looks like this tip got pruned as well, or died. So that's the first one. This one next, and you can see they have lots and lots of growth. They're actually on the ground, and because they were on the ground, they have plenty of soil to grow into, and they grew into the ground. That's why they have so much growth right now already. And this is all this year's growth, all this new growth. Like they are growing a lot. Here I have the main trunk line that I've developed so far. I'm gonna keep that because it has good movement. It goes there and then bends back over, and it's got movement right here, and then that, and then that. So it's got good movement there. However, I'm gonna prune off all these long, massive growth pieces all the way back to the base. And this one could make a twin trunk, except, oh wait, no, it's not far enough down. This one's actually not at the base. It looked like it was at first with all these leaves covering it in, but it's not. So I'm actually going to prune that off. I got a nice thick branch here that you can't really see. And that right here is the branch. Pushing it down. We got this, which has good movement, but I'm going to prune it back more so I can get better movement close to the trunk. We also have this, which is interesting. I'm going to prune it back to here because it has a bud coming out that way, which I want. And it basically goes out this way, and then that way, and then back that way, which is very interesting to me. So I'm going to go with that and prune off the tip right there that I just pruned off. This is just absolutely growing like crazy. So here we have a tip that has a lot of growth. Now I have a garden spider on this plant, which is nice. Get rid of those nasty pests. They have a massive bunch of branches right here, so I'm going to prune that entire tip off. So I got some good branching back here close to the trunk. I got this right here, which I'm going to find the source of. Just all the way down here. Jesus. I'm actually going to tear that off. And there we go. Now it's starting to look a little bit cleaner. And less like a mass of foliage and more like a tree. And this is actually a vine, not a tree. This is a honeysuckle vine with another long stem there. So I do like at the base. I'm going to prune that off. I got some good choices right here on this branch right here. Prune this back. I'm going to prune it back really hard. So I got this right here, which I don't like. So I'm going to actually pull, well, actually turn it off. There we go, it's off. And then I have this and this, which are the main trunk line. And this is actually starting to thicken up now, which is nice. Because these tend to thicken up pretty slowly. But they do thicken up. It just takes a while. These trees I propagated from cuttings, and they are all about, I want to say, 3 to 5 years old or so. Actually, no, probably closer to 3 years at the most. So I have this. We have a lot of branching, a lot of branches, and kind of a reverse taper right here. So I'm going to prune this way back. There's some budding inside here. So we have that. And now we have a sort of triple trunk line here. So I'm going to have to make some choices. And what it's looking like, I'm going to keep this part and prune this back really hard. So I got some buds coming off right here that I can use. Because this is thicker, and I actually want it to be thick, use the thicker stems on this, because of the fact that it actually shows that it's actually like strong growing. And then I'm not sure if you can see it too well, but I got two branches coming off right on top of each other. I have this branch, which is rather strong, but doesn't really have anything I like. Whereas the branch above it, this one does have some good movement right there. And I accidentally damaged that stem, so I'm going to prune it off. This could make a good branch right here if I wire it. Since I just broke it, but oh well. It'll grow back. So I also got this right here, which is coming straight up off of this lower branch. So I'm going to prune it off completely. I have this, which is growing off this lowest branch. And I also have a small branch coming off directly opposite of it that is growing into this thicker branch. And I really liked it, this twin trunk style. However, this branch is kind of getting in the way of that design, especially this lower one, which is going from the same spot. So I'm going to prune off that lower one. And I'm going to prune off this little small one right here, because it's kind of getting into the growth of this twin trunk right here. And I'll prune back this twin trunk a little bit harder, because there's nothing there. Actually, I think I already pruned it back before, but I just like left the stub and it came back to these two. So that, I think, pretty much covers this tree. Except for printing off this stub. There we go. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers this tree for now. I do want to keep this lower branch. I think this lower branch right here needs to come off though, because there's 3 branches right there coming off at the same space. I'm already starting to get reverse taper, so one of them needs to go. So that's 2 of 5 trees down, and I'm kind of up in the air on these as far as using, because these propagate extremely easily from cuttings, just like some of the privets that I have. So I'm kind of up in the air on making a few more of these with these prunings that I've made. Because they're okay trees. They actually have spring flowers, which are fairly pretty. They're also the spring flowers are also edible. Turn off these suckers. But they're not necessarily the best tree in the world. They do develop, because of being a vine, they do develop really nice contorted trunks, which I do like, but they don't exactly thicken up a lot, which I don't like. And they're not especially beautiful in any real aspect outside of the trait of the contorted trunks, which is more so from being a vine rather than an inherent trait of these plants. As such, I might instead of working with privets, work with a different kind of vine to create these beautiful contorted trunks. This one is really contorted and beautiful. And actually looking at it, I think it would be worth it to go in and make more, because they do have some really interesting flaky bark. So as you can see right here, I have a twin trunk coming off. It's kind of tied up, but I also have some other branching that is completely going inside this trunk right here, namely some branching right in here that I don't want. Also got a couple of, well, one looks like branch that was growing straight up off of that. I'm just going to rub off these suckers that are growing low down on this secondary trunk. There's another sucker growing from the same spot on this over here. So I'm going to prune that off. These tend to sucker a lot, like a lot. They are extremely vigorous plants, and they will. I could probably prune this back to a stump just right here, and it would grow back. I mean, these things, they just keep coming back. They just keep on coming back, which is a nice trait. Means you can print them really hard. Bring it back to there. And as you can see, I kind of have a branch right here that's not really doing much. I had some. Actually, I need to print that off because it's running straight up. Looks like I got another sucker starting to develop right there, so I'll rub it off. But yeah, the sad thing about these is they tend to only develop from, they develop all their branches from a single location, on regular locations in the tree. Because I got these, I got another one right across from it on the back right here. They just, which is not a good trait. Honestly, for this, let's stump off. I think I'm going to have to remove this branching right here, which I really like, because it's growing over this thicker second trunk, which I do like as well. However, all these trees are probably going to be twin trunk if I do that. So I'm going to actually do a little bit different on this one and prune off this to the base, despite it making a good, decent secondary trunk. And you know what? I'm actually going to propagate this. This would make a really nice starter tree, and it probably will root. And that leaves me with a single trunk now to work with. This, I'm going to prune off this lengthy bit, and there's some buds all the way back in here that might be hard to see. This, we got some really strong shoots coming off. I do like the movement, so I'm going to continue that movement and prune off these buds of the stems that are growing too strong. I'm going to bring this back to here, and hopefully I'll get a bud somewhere right there. If not, I may continue this over here or prune it back more. I'm not really sure yet as far as that goes. I also have this branch, which I actually do want to keep just as a backup in case this dies or something happens to it, or I break off a bud that I really wanted on it accidentally, because the buds on these things, when they're first coming out, they are very tender. Like, you can literally just rub them off and they will just fall right off. So there is an issue with that. So I have this and I have this coming from the same spot. I do have this branch structure right here, which can replace this, which also doesn't really have much movement. So I don't think that would work. I think that would work because then if I wire this downward, it'll go right into that location. So I'm gonna prune this off completely. I'm probably gonna leave this one really bare. So I got some stems growing here. I got a sucker here growing from somewhere. Yeah, these things, like, they even send out really strong sucker-like shoots from the upper part of the tree as well. Just broke off another branch. Come on. There we go. Like, these develop, some of the shoots will be like really good small branching with good close to the trunk movement. Others will be like just these massively vigorous branches that just go crazy and take over the entire plant. So you gotta keep these under control because they just go crazy with those stems. And here I have a branching that I'm gonna prune back to pretty much nothing because there's not really anything useful, but it is a good branch that I want to keep. Remove these buds close to the trunk. So, as you can see right here, we have a beginning of a trunk line. Kind of goes up through here and then curves. We have a bit of movement in that direction too at the base, and then that. And then we have several choices up here for where we could work with it. I'm actually going to thin this out some. Got a whole bunch of shoots coming off. Have this, which I don't really like. I want to keep this because I think I might use it. However, I got some straight branches right there, and I have this. I'm going to go with this branching right here because, well, it might bud off right there. I'm going to prune this back. I'm going to leave myself some choices, and I'm going to hopefully get a bud right here, which is optimally what I want. This is thicker as well compared to these. This is pretty much just a sucker, which will thicken the trunk as it grows. Which will be useful. Prune this back hard to there. Prune this. This actually has a bend going that way and then that way. I'm going to prune it back to there. Yeah, you really have to keep on pruning these trees like regularly. Otherwise they can get excuse me. Otherwise it can get extremely out of hand. And I actually have some small buds coming out right here. So, and that's like right where I want it to go. So I'm going to prune off this stronger shoot right here, which I actually just broke off instead. So that works. And I'm going to continue the branching right there instead. And as you can see, they are actually starting to trunk up now. But they have these beautiful, beautiful contorted trunks, as you can see. Like, the movement in this is just amazing. Like, they really just grow. I'm gonna do this one next. And there's another one behind me. This is the 4th tree. I'm actually gonna take this out of the pot just to make this easier. Assuming I can, because well, this one's not so bad. There we go. Absolutely pot bound. Completely pot bound. Like, these been in the same pot pretty much since the beginning. So they obviously be very pot bound. I should probably pot these up into larger pots, or maybe a bonsai pot or something. I'm gonna prune these back to the base, these suckers. See if I can get them closer. There we go. There we go, right down to the base. Got a little sucker growing here right in the middle of the tree. The suckers are usually break off a lot more easily than like the regular stems do, like the non-suckering stems. The sucker stems, you can literally just rub them off because they're just so soft. Meanwhile, stems like this one, they're actually strong and woody. You really want to focus on the suckers when you're pruning, and less so branches like this that aren't as strong or vigorous. Because the suckers can quickly get out of hand. I'm gonna prune this back there. This getting too long. Actually, it's going straight up. So I'm gonna prune it all the way back to here where I have another new bud coming out, and see what we get right there. Have some suckers there. Although with the suckers, one thing you can do is you can prune them back really close to their base or to a really short internodes part, and they'll just come back, but often they'll come back and not be as vigorous or like a sucker, and you'll have a nice, like this. No, I had some stems on here. Actually, this right here, this base, which I just broke off, was probably actually a sucker right here, and then I pruned it back to there, and now I have a nice better stem there. So you don't always have to prune them all the way off, but it really depends on the situation. If you need a branch there, or if you are thinking of the trunk or what. And actually, looking at this, I have just an absolute massive amount of branches growing out right here, none of which I really like. However, I have this, which makes a good taper on the trunk line, so I'm literally just going to prune that entire top off. And it's not much smaller than that. And I actually have something right here that would work really well. So I'm going to rub off these buds right here, these smaller buds. Cut this off flush. Yeah. There we go. And I actually have a good branch here and a good branch here. I can work with this. I'm going to prune this. Well, I'm going to leave that tip for now, because I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. So this one, I'm just going to prune off Actually, I'm just going to leave it as is because I've done a lot of printing to it. And it's going to go back in its pot. And over here to the side. That one's probably the hardest print of them all. And it'll definitely come right on back. This one again should come right out of its pot pretty easily. Yeah. Get off this pine straw. Some pine trees in my parents' yard, which are literally right above me. Got this pine straw. There we go. But there's still a little bit more there. And usually what I do for winter protection is I will just leave my trees where they are, but I'll just let like the pine straw from the pine trees just fall in a pot and naturally mulch the trees. But because of where I live, being North Carolina, it actually does not get that cold during the winter. Like the coldest it'll get at the absolute coldest is maybe 10 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's very rare. Usually, and even then, most of the winter it's mild. Like it's weird because here we'll have like, especially towards the late winter, we'll have continuous times where we'll come like sometimes as long as a week or longer. That is like it's really mild out. Sometimes as high as 60 or even mid 60s or something like that during the winter, and it'll be like really warm like that for a whole week or something, and then it'll go straight cold again. But we have really inconsistent winters in that regard, at least in the Raleigh area. And actually probably a little also as you go from Raleigh towards the coastal area as well. It also is like that, but in the mountains it's actually really cold. I don't know how cold during the winter, but it does get pretty cold compared to where I am and further east. But the weather here is really mild, and the weather will go from warm to cold consistently multiple times throughout the winter, and it'll be like really, really warm for winter, like well above freezing, and then it'll be below freezing regularly. And then we don't really even have that hard of freezes here. Like usually the coldest it gets, except for like a handful of nights, and maybe like 2 or 3 days out of the winter, it'll actually be below about 20 to 25 degrees. On a normal winter. It is really mild here. Well, anyways, back to this tree. I've been talking about the weather here, but I have a nice strong sucker here that I'm just going to break off. As you can see, it just breaks right off really easily. And that's the good thing about these suckers, is they do break off really easily. You can literally just break them right off. And I actually got a really good stem right here that it's developing really nice taper. I also have a really nice thick trunk line developing. You can't really see it yet. I'm actually going to prune this stem back really hard. That does have really good taper right here. I do have some buds coming back. I'm going to prune it back actually a little less hard than I thought I would. And I got a sucker right here that I think at one point I left it because I was thinking maybe a twin trunk, maybe not. And I'm actually going to decide no twin trunk on this tree. I have a nice strong stem right here, coming from the same position as other branches. This one is not doing what I want it to do for sure, so I'm definitely going to print that one off. But I still got to make a decision on these two branches here. This one has some movement, and it's looking pretty good. This one is just straight, so this one's going to be the one to go. We actually got some really nice cuttings in here, so I am going to probably propagate these. And then we got this right here. We got this, and we got this. This I really like. but I think this would be the better branch if I plant it out, cut it back to this bud, and grow that out as a branch. But I also really like this. At this time, considering the fact that it's not really developing reverse taper or a knob yet, I'm actually going to prune this back. And that's already been pruned back. And I'm going to keep them both, actually. And kind of make a decision later. So, actually, yeah, I'm thinking something kind of like that, leaning slightly forward once I finally pot these up. We got multiple branches coming out at this point right here. Actually, because of the fact of how this is growing, I'm actually probably going to keep both these branches as back branches and back/side branches. I'm gonna prune this off, or maybe I'll keep it. But I'm thinking something like that, which means this can go over here, or I could use this bud right here, and these would be the back branches. And because of how honeysuckles grow, you really kind of actually have to have multiple branches at the same point, which kind of sucks because they don't really develop in a good tree-like fashion. Like I